Okay, everybody, so this is going to be our 5th video on the abdominals. And today what I want to talk to you about is some, what I'm just going to refer to as some dysfunctional muscular patterns with the abdominal wall and things that you can resolve, and they're important to resolve them. So one of the things, the first things we're going to talk about is just, I'm going to say generally, abdominal distension. So abdominal distension is when the transverse abdominis, and remember the transverse abdominis is that deepest muscle that wraps all the way around your body, yeah? It's kind of like a girdle or a corset. And so when you draw the lower stomach in, it actually compresses, it causes hoop tension, and that creates a great deal of stability for your pelvis, your hips, yeah? And your spine, and then that goes out to all the other aspects of your body, your shoulders, your neck, and then all the way down through your hips, your knees, your ankles, etc. So, and that's part of when we refer to your core, it's that musculature that stabilizes the spine, and the transverse abdominis is just one of several that do that. So having a good toned transverse abdominis and highly functional is really important. However, with abdominal distension, what happens is there's either bloating or inflammation and gas, etc., that ends up pushing out that abdominal wall, that transverse abdominis, and stretching it out. Instead of having it stay nice and toned, it bulges out. And it can actually drop down, almost like you're spilling a bowl of soup out the front of your pelvis, in a sense. The intestines just kind of out front, and you get that drop and distension in that lower abdominal wall. It can be in your upper abdominal wall too, but that drop and distension, that sagging. And so the transverse abdominis isn't being active enough, or it could be possibly being shut down. And so it can get shut down if, let's say for instance, you have intolerances to foods like, by the way, dairy. You're going, what do you mean I can't have dairy? I love ice cream. I need my milk and my coffee, and I need my blah, 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 and my cheese and my dairy. Causes gut inflammation for most people. Grains, not just gluten, but grains in general, cause gut inflammation and that bloating. And then alcohol. What? Yes, alcohol causes gut inflammation, and that can cause that distension, along with medications, and get this, mental emotional stress can cause gut inflammation, and then causing that distension. So when there's inflammation in the gut, the nervous system registers that, and because the abdominal wall, the transverse abdominis, is on the same neural loop, it's on the same neural drive, that neural loop, it receives the same information. The brain doesn't know this, or the nervous system doesn't know this, but it's actually shutting down the transverse or inhibiting the signal to the transverse abdominis. So instead of it being nice and toned, it shuts the signal down, and it starts to, in a sense, relax. And so it doesn't have the ability to stay toned and firm and keep the intestines from spilling forward and out. So that alone can be a big reason for chronic distension. And so you need to clean that stuff up. So you need to get off of all the stuff that could be causing that gut inflammation. So again, those things, those classic things are dairy, grains, sugars, processed foods, medications, alcohol, and stress. Sorry. But it's true. I'm going to give it to you straight, guys, because if you keep going around going, I don't understand what's going on, no matter how much I diet, no matter how many sit-ups I do, no matter, I can never get, my belly's always still just blah, right? And you don't want the blah. So just stop it. Have you guys ever seen Bob Newhart? And he has, you can go on YouTube and watch this, where a woman comes into him for help, to get over some big issue, some emotional issue, and it's called Stop It. So just go watch it. And when you're watching that, pretend that you're the woman in the chair going, but I still want to keep eating my dairy, and I still want to keep eating my grains and my pizzas and my pastas and my bread and my this and my that. I still want to go have my alcohol. I still want to have my coffee with my cream. I still want to keep my medications. Stop it. Okay, so that's gut distension. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to now start talking about something that's even more, it's mechanically more challenging, but it can still be healed up. So, and this is called a diastasis recti. So I'm going to actually spin us around because I have a really nice diagram or an illustration on my desktop that I want to share with you because you'll see it before, it'll make more sense. So here we go. Big spin, and I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to come in here, and I think if I tap this, yeah, it makes the light a little better for you. So I think that's fairly close. There you go. So over here, you'll see, this might be backwards, but forget about the wording if it's backwards. Just look at the picture. So here's your abdominal wall. Remember that the navel separates what we're going to call the upper abdominals from the lower abdominals. And remember, we always talk about a six-pack. Well, believe it or not, you have more than a six-pack. Because here's your six-pack, 2, 4, and 6. So your upper abdominals are your six-pack. But you have another 4-pack below that, which you can actually, if you get lean enough, you will see. And those are the guys you look at and you go, oh my God, they got a 10-pack. How did they get that? Well, you have it too. So this is a healthy abdominal wall. You'll see that right down the middle, what we call the linea alba, right down the center, each one of these sections is actually innervated by 2 nerves, each one. So your abdominal wall is highly neurologically innervated, much more than any other muscle group in your body, because each one of these has 2 nerve innervations, if I remember it correctly. Don't hate me if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's right. So this is when it's working correctly. Nice in tone, holding in firm. Now let's go to this side, and this is what a diastasis recti can look like. There's different aspects of it, but in general, this is what we're looking at. See how the outer rectus abdominis has now separated apart? Because what happens is when you have the abdominals, or I should say, when the abdominal contents, now this could happen a great deal with pregnancies because it has to make room for the fetus, right? So the abdominal wall stretches out to make room for the growing fetus, which is a good thing. But you can't say that for a guy, and guys get these all the time, right? So they have those big, big bellies. And what happens is the transverse abdominis, which on this way is nice and tone and flat, gets stretched out. And so when it gets stretched out, the 2 aspects, left and right aspect of the rectus abdominis, the bigger outer 6-pack or 8 or 10-pack muscles, stretch apart as the belly stretches out. Yeah? And then it creates this void in the middle. So this is the transverse abdominis in this area now that's been stretched out. And so what happens is you'll see this when you do a sit-up or something, this can actually push out like a little alien. It's a little weird looking. And so what we want to do is if we start toning the transverse abdominis deep inside that cookie sheet girdle and we start pulling it back together, then the outer rectus abdominis starts coming together again and will start to sew itself back up into this position. Because remember, these are all muscles. And so muscles have the ability to stretch and they have the ability to contract. And if we contract this and draw this in on a consistent basis, now I'm going to be careful with this. It doesn't mean you just start pulling your stomach in all the time. There's a process and a protocol for this, which is the right way to do it. Then the muscle fibers start to shorten, what we call the sarcomers. They start to shorten again. Instead of being stretched out and long, they'll shorten again, and you'll start to come back to retaining a proper abdominal wall with proper functioning. Yeah? So that's what a diastasis recti looks like. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I would highly suggest you go on Google. That's all I did. Go on Google and put in diastasis recti, and then go to and click on the illustrations, and you can scroll down and you'll see all different aspects of what it will look like, because it can look very different depending on what's going on. Yeah? So if you look over here, here's a little one, but see how it almost looks like it's separated and there's a little dip here? They can be all different. Okay, so I'm going to spin that around again. That's enough graphics for you guys. Yeah? But it's really important to get that stuff healed up, because if you have that distension or that stretching out, then your abdominal wall isn't able to function correctly, and that's going to probably cause instability in your lumbopelvic hip girdle, which means you're probably going to have low back pain. Let me get rid of this little thing here. It's going to cause low back pain because you're not stable enough, or hip pain, or it can travel down into your knees and even your ankles, and it can actually travel up your spine too. So instability is going to cause pain. So we want to heal that up. And I work with a lot of clients, both men and women, that have this issue. So, and there's courses that you can find online that will give you exercises for that too. Yeah? So there's a correct way to do this. It does take time, but it's important to do it, right? Because you can get highly functional abdominal walls back from that, right? And we see this happening, a lot of women after pregnancy actually get back to having a highly functional and stable abdominal wall, and some don't, but it's only because they either stop short, or they may have had a C-section or something like that, which cut the muscle through. And so it's just a matter of doing protocols, or rehabilitation, we could even call it, to do that and get that back. So you can do it. You can absolutely do it. And I do this with clients, okay? So please, if you have this, you can get back to have a highly functional, you just have to do the protocols, and I'll be happy to help you with that. So if you want to step into that, listen, let's have a consultation. Give me a call or send me an email. I'll have you come down to the studio, and we'll just sit and we'll have a consultation together, and it won't cost you a thing, and we can talk about how to go about doing that, okay? Easy enough. So then, now the last thing I want to talk about is a herniation. So herniation is, I'm going to say, even a little more challenging, because what happens is if this is your abdominal wall, right? And what happens is there's a separation, then the abdominal contents, right, is going to push through. And if it's a severe herniation and it's wide enough, it can really come out and sit outside. Right? Your skin is covering it still, but it's sitting outside, which means you've not only the rectus abdominis muscles, but underneath that, the oblique muscles, and underneath that, the transverse abdominis have torn. And so that abdominal contents, intestines, things like that, can push out. And we don't want that to happen. And it can be very tiny, or it could be severe, and you'll know. So that's different from a diastasis, because the transverse abdominis is still intact. So it's holding the internal contents in still. But the internal contents is pushing out, bulging, making that abdominal wall push out. But it hasn't broken through yet. So that's something where you're going to definitely want to go talk to a surgeon, because they're going to want to go in there. If it's severe, they're going to go in and surgically sew it together and put in some meshing just like it looks like a screen door meshing that will hold everything together. That's important. If it's a very minor tear, then that's something that you can actually resolve through rehabilitation, but you have to make sure that you're not making it worse, okay? So, and you can get tears anywhere through your abdominal wall. It doesn't have to be low in the lower abdominal wall. It can be up in the middle. So we want to take care of that. And usually you're going to know that because you're getting some kind of sharp pain. Yeah. So if you think you have one, or if it's obvious where you're getting some kind of bulging out, let's get that taken care of right away. Okay. So I'm seeing that my battery's getting low, so I want to make sure I finish this. So that's it for now. Hey, listen, so no matter what's going on with you, if you want to come in and have a consultation, no matter what's going on with you, low back pain, digestive issues, hormonal issues, whatever, come on in. Let's have a free consultation. I'm here for you. If you want to do it, we can do it through Skype. So if you're out of town, or if you're like in Europe, or if you live in New York or down in South America or up in Canada or somewhere within the United States or over in Europe, I work with people globally through Skype, so we can definitely do this. So I'm here for you. You can contact me through Facebook and either send me a private message or contact me through holistichealth-fitness.com. Go to the contact page, send me an email, call me directly, and we'll set up a private consult that we can do. Okay? So I'm here for you. Let's go ahead and step into that. I can't wait to hear from you. So until then, take good care of yourselves, and remember, I love your guts. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.